I needed to get creative with my opportunities. Well, an opportunity came up to do the gut check. It was a good experience for me, and it was a good test for me and to see where I really was. It was a lot for him to do. He's a natural. He's a quirky dude, but in the best way. It's a desire to have a better show and a different show. I met Martin for the first time in 2007. Yeah, we've talked about doing a tag team thing for years, and then just finally the stars aligned just right, and like, hey, we got a chance to do this. We want to be good. We want to be a cohesive tag team unit. We got Trina with us out there, and she's a phenomenal piece of this. Vince Russo started writing with us and working with us. He was coaching at the school. He was doing the character development stuff. Vince Russo, he called me one day. He goes, bro,
straight talk, no disguise. So the slang dripping, got the truth in my eyes. Might like gavel, every word, lay it down. Coach C in the booth, turn the game all around. Yeah, it's Coach C, he the best for business. It's Coach C, he the best for business. Yeah, I'm sharp as attack when I call the play-by-play. Every dog got his day, and I make the crowd stay. It's every week we go live on a Wednesday. Dressing so sharp, that's the reason why your friends stay. The youngest in the game to do it, best for business. Coach C is the truth and everybody gonna witness. Love entertainment, you swear it's your destiny. Link with Coach C, we can talk about your legacy. It's Coach C, he the best for business. It's Coach C, he the best for business.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Best for Business. I'm so pumped for this one. Mercury Yaden, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I'm pumped for this one. Earlier in the year, I interviewed Choppa City, and then recently Martin Casaus. Your name comes up often, so I'm very excited for this one.
Oh, it's good. How does it come up? Is it a good come up or a bad come up?
Oh, they were both had positive things. We'll talk about them later, so we'll see what you have to say about them.
Oh, I love those guys. Yeah, one of them is my tag team partner, Martin Casaus, and the other two gentlemen, Choppa City. They've been around here for a long time. They're very instrumental to the operation of Rocky Mountain Pro, the success of Rocky Mountain Pro, and I can't think of a tag team that has been more popular than those two out here in Colorado. It is a sight to behold every time we're out and about, and they're on the event, man. They draw interest like no other, so it's great to have them as part of the team, and they're also pretty good guys too, so that helps.
Yeah, they say it all the time that chops don't stop, but I'm curious for you when you talk pro wrestling. You've done so much in wrestling, but originally, what was it about wrestling that made you want to get involved with it?
I wasn't into professional wrestling growing up. I knew of it. Nobody in my family really watched it, so it was kind of a new thing as I got into high school, mid to late 90s. The Monday Night Wars are happening. So I heard about it all the time. And I was actually one of the few guys that in my group of friends that didn't watch professional wrestling. So, you were it seems like when I really think back there, you were kind of the weird one if you didn't watch it.
What did you watch? Like, what was your thing back in the day?
I didn't really watch, a whole lot of TV. I played sports, so nice. I was busy with all that stuff. So by the time you'd get home late, there were things I liked. I was a video game kid, so played a lot of Nintendo and PlayStation as a kid. That's what I focused a lot of my my downtime on. But I was a wrestler, and I played football and played baseball until my junior year. So I didn't really, throughout high school, I can't remember a lot of TV shows. There were TV shows, obviously the popular ones that were on at the time. My favorite movie was Terminator 2, so I watched that over and over again. But there wasn't really anything on, episodic TV that I can remember really watching consistently. So it just wasn't something, I think, sitting and watching TV that interested me, other than the family sitting down on TGIF and watching the sitcoms and stuff that were on the Family Matters and the shows like that. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't avoid it. Like, everybody talked about it. So on Tuesdays, everybody was talking about wrestling. So I got a little bit of an interest in what all these guys were talking about. I had a Latin teacher, Mr. Baker. I believe it was my junior year of high school. It might have been my senior, because I had him my senior year, I know, but I might have had him also my junior year. As you get old, all these memories start to get really foggy. But he talked about pro wrestling. He was a big pro wrestling fan. And he'd actually have some students watch. He'd have like a WrestleMania party every year. Wow. Never went to the WrestleMania party, but he'd talk about it. And in my senior year of high school, I started hanging out with these guys. I worked at the Richland Mall in Ontario, Ohio, and I was at the Metabolife stand, and there was a guy next to me at the Beanie Wagon where they sold Beanie Babies. This is like January '99,
Hmm.
January February '99, and they were backyard wrestlers. They wrestled at their friend's house, and they asked me if I wrestled, and I said yeah. Season was over, and they said, well, you should come over and do some pro wrestling with us. And I was like, some pro wrestling? What? Like, what do you guys do? But they were all cool dudes, man.
Nice.
So I went over there and started hanging out with them, and that's what really got me interested in the doing it side of things. I didn't know what I was doing. I had really no idea. I had paid it like Austin and Tyson. Like I remember being really interested in that because a kid of my age like Tyson was a huge deal
Yeah.
growing up in the '80s and '90s. So that's kind of the abbreviated version, I guess, if you will, as abbreviated as I can make things. You'll see it takes me a while to get to a point, but that's how I got into it. It was what got me into wrestling. Doing it was those guys in that mall. If it wasn't for them, this wouldn't probably be a thing. They became good friends of mine. I went there to just hang out with them. I started doing it. I don't recommend it, by the way. I always tell people I don't recommend getting started the way I did doing the backyard thing. But that's I didn't know any better. I was 17 years old and developed a love for it from that end, and just kind of hung around long enough, did enough things to where I could be in this crazy world. 27 years later or so. So
When you mentioned backyard, I'm curious, what was the name for you?
same. I've been
Oh, okay.
Matt Yaden, Mercury Yaden, some form of it since then. When I was in Tennessee for that year, I was out there. I did the Yaden Matthews thing, but I came
Nice.
back to the Mercury Yaden when I came back here. So yeah, so that goes back to my Latin teacher, Mr. Baker.
Wow.
Like when I was gonna do my first match with those guys in the living room,
Hmm.
I had a buddy of mine, and Pete and I were looking through our Latin textbooks to find names for ourselves, and he was Osiris, and I think that's an Egyptian.
Hmm.
So maybe I think if I remember correctly, then I think he had the name already. That's what he wanted to be. So I was looking through the book to find a god that I could name myself after, and Mercury just sounded cool,
Yeah.
so we went and did it. And then the guy they recorded just on old VHS, right? But they do their announcing or whatever with it. And Joe just kept saying Mercury Matt Yaden, like he just said my full name. It
Hmm.
was supposed to be just Mercury, but then I feel like, oh, that has kind of a ring to it, and that's where that started, and it just kind of stuck over the years. So
Wow. You say you don't recommend anyone starting the way you did with the backyard. So how do you transition originally? Backyard you do a little bit for, but how does pro wrestling you switch to the wrestling part go?
so I got actually trained by a professional in 2001. So we messed around doing the backyard thing, and there was a local group in Ohio. There we were in Mansfield, Ontario. But one of our friends ended up acquiring a ring, so we started doing stuff actually in a wrestling ring. It was a 16 by
Nice.
16 ring, older ring, spring loaded ring, kind of that breakdown style. And but for us, it was a ring, man. It was great. Like
Yeah.
we were in a ring, so we were trying to train ourselves how to do this. Which again, do not recommend. Don't do it that way. But that's what we had. And then a local, we passed flyers out for shows that we do. There was a one of our friends, his father owned an electrical business, and they had like the docking base for all the vehicles, and we could fit the ring in there, and he'd let us put it up in there and do our own little shows. So as we were flyering for those shows, one of someone grabbed it. His name's Jay Kilgore. That was my first trainer, and
Mm.
and Jay was with his wife, and he saw the flyer and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go check this out." I think he kind of stopped wrestling. He'd been out of wrestling for a little bit, and he showed up to the show and watched it, and then talked to us afterwards because he saw some potential there. And then he agreed to come in and start training us because he didn't want to see us hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
He saw an opportunity to give back and help, and he did, and we became good friends. I still still follow him. We still communicate here and there, and I owe him a lot because he came in and then tried to I'd say clean things up, but it wasn't a cleanup job. It was a complete training job because we had no idea really what we were doing. So that's
Yeah.
how it started. 2001, he started training us, and then I started getting around on the locals there. Finally started branching out, and MCW was a group there. I think there's one still around, but it's a different. It was Main Event Championship Wrestling, I think, was what it stood for.
Nice.
Um, And I started doing shows. A friend of mine, Bill, and I started doing those shows and wrestling around. And then I moved here in '03.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that progressed. Then I found a group here and I started kind of messing with it here and so on and so forth. Started mine in 2010.
When
So
you,
that's
I was gonna say, when you first get involved in the Ohio's wrestling scene, is there anything that stood out about wrestling in Ohio compared to anywhere else?
I didn't really have a frame of reference at that
Okay.
time. So I mean it was all new to me.
Hmm.
There's more of it. Like now that I've, been around, there's a lot more of it in that part of the country, like the
Yeah.
Midwest, East, out East, Midwest, than there is here. That actually is one of the reasons I was hesitant to move to Colorado. My parents had moved out here uh, in 2000, right after I graduated high school.
Hmm.
And so I considered it because they were here. And, but anybody I'd talked to was like, there's no wrestling out in Colorado. They didn't know of anybody.
Yeah.
My dad actually, looked up online. He found a group called IWF, a gentleman named Alan Carnell, who was an awesome guy. And my dad gave me the contact. I reached out, contacted him, said, "You want to talk to me?" So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to move out there. So I
Wow.
packed everything I had into a Chevy Cavalier, and what I couldn't fit in there, I threw away and just drove out. And, but yeah, it's a it's very similar. Like you'll hear people say all the time, they're like, "Oh, like that's just indies in Colorado." It's like, well, that's it's the same everywhere. To me, it's just the magnitude of it.
Hmm.
So if there's 7 total groups here between the American Style and the Luchas, then if you go out to Ohio, Indiana, there's probably 75. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of how many there are. But the kind of way everybody interacts and does that's all pretty much the same anywhere I've been.
Yeah. For a guy who's accomplished a lot in wrestling, I'm curious, right at the beginning, what would you consider your first big opportunity when it came to wrestling?
First big opportunity would probably be that first independent show that I got a chance to be on.
Nice.
Vice and I wrestled on that one, and that was huge for us because we were breaking out of just being essentially backyarders. Even though we had been trained by Jay, like we were still very green, very young, didn't have really any experience working within that side of the independence. So that was huge. And then not too long after that, Vice and I had an opportunity to wrestle at I can't remember it was in Canton, Ohio, but there was a huge show that MCW did. It was September to Remember 2002. And I think there were 5,000 plus there. I mean, it might have been close to 7. Like it was a huge crowd. I don't, you could draw, he drew a huge crowd back then. And wrestling was at the height of its popularity too at that point. So, and there were a lot of names on that show. Sabu was on that show, and Jimmy Snuka was on it. Dusty Rhodes was there. AJ Styles was there as he was starting to come up. So they really loaded that show. I think Jerry Lawler was on that show. So it was a huge show, and we got an opportunity to be one of the opening matches for it. And
Wow.
that was, just basically a year in at that point from actually being trained. It was like, oh my God. So that was huge. So I'd say it's probably the earliest like big opportunity that I had that I can remember that really stands out.
When you talk early in your career, what were you going for the inspiration behind Mercury and Matt Yaden? What were you going for in the ring and things like that?
I mean, I had Hardy Boy like gear, so
Okay,
we kind
yeah.
of laugh when we see all stuff. They're like, "Oh, this is your Hardy Boy era." I'm like, "Yeah, I think most guys
Yeah.
at my age kind of went through that were trying to do this." The name, obviously the being in Latin, I've always been interested in Roman and Greek
Nice.
mythology.
Yeah.
Not interested like I could really sit and have a long discussion with you. I just find it interesting, so I'm not an expert by any means, but
Hmm.
so just the gear at the time, being a young guy, as I got into my later high school years, the kind of skater. I didn't skate because I tried once. I rolled down the driveway and fell off immediately and was like, okay, this isn't for me. Concrete hurts.
Yeah.
But that look, that kind of, the punk, the skater, that
Hmm.
alternative look, I really started getting into, junior, senior year of high school. So that's kind of what I started trying to go for. I really liked Billy Kidman at one point. So
Nice.
I did the white tank and the jorts at one point just because, but that was like before I ever got trained.
Yeah.
I kind of went away from that. I started doing it was more of a Hardy Boy. I think I actually had a shirt that I wore that was I think Matt Hardy's exact shirt at some point. You get it at I don't know if it was Gadzooks or Hot Topic or wherever it was.
Yeah.
Gadzooks, I don't know if Gadzooks is still around, but I worked there my senior year, so I got to see all of it. I was like, "Ooh, that'd be cool for wrestling." So that was kind of my own taste in how I dressed.
Hmm.
Really affected it then. And then as I started to progress, and enough people were like, "Hey, if you want to be taken serious professionally, you probably need to have professionally made stuff." But I really didn't want to wear tights. Like I just did not want to wear tights for some
Yeah.
reason. I wrestled in high school, so it's not like I was uncomfortable. And I for some reason did not want to wear spandex. So I finally got my first pair of actual tights or actual gear made by Easy Money for BCW,
Wow.
easytights.com. That's where I ordered a pair of blue pleather pants
Uh-huh.
that I wore for a long time, and I really liked them. But then by 2009, 2010 ish, I started going into the more. I had a singlet that I wore that I still have, I still wear. And then
Nice.
I started going that direction. So it's really all kind of shifted with where I am in my life and kind of my own personal preferences.
Yeah. For you, you've done a lot of pro wrestling, but early on, I'm curious, is there anything that stood out wrestling Scorpio Sky early on?
It was just a great opportunity. It was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. It was easy. It was something that I feel fortunate that I had the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
I was looking at potentially, either relocating to or at least visiting quite often, California.
Hmm.
So I was kind of starting to get my foot in there, and that was like the first opportunity I got was to wrestle Scorpio Sky. So I was like, oh, this is cool. This worked out pretty well. So
Yeah.
it was a great opportunity, and it was a lot of fun, ton of fun.
How does for you OVW happen?
TNA, I was a talent relations manager at TNA,
Okay.
and Al Snow was going down there to run it. I worked directly underneath Bob Ryder and Al Snow. So I got the opportunity to go down and help him there. And then when the TNA job ended, I was able to do some more wrestling down there for a little bit. But that was all through my time at TNA.
For you, when you talk OVW, what was like a day in the life for you
At OVW or at TNA?
at OVW?
It was work. When I was working at TNA, it was get off work as early as I possibly could to make the 3.5 hour drive from Nashville to Louisville.
Wow.
And at the time, I wrestled some matches there while I was working in the office, but I wasn't able to make it consistent enough. So
Hmm.
I'd go down and I'd try to help with some administrative stuff for Al to get names and stuff of people, because at the time OVW was TNA's developmental
Yeah.
territory. So some of that, and then just going down to be a part of it, because I still wanted to wrestle. I was still taking indie bookings around there. And then after that, I would start going down on Wednesdays when I wasn't working in the office and trying to get opportunities. I don't think I only got a couple television matches. I did some dark matches for them.
Hmm.
I just wasn't there long enough to really ever establish myself as somebody they could have on the television show regularly. And by the time that was, it kind of started moving, I came back to Colorado.
Oh,
So,
okay. Is
so
there
I've
an
maintained a
OVW match that
relationship.
stands out?
I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of them,
Yeah.
but not really. I mean,
Okay.
they were all fun.
Yeah.
I had a good time doing all of it, but nothing that I can say like, oh, this was a big one. Now I can say, that the last match I did there was like a big, I think 6-man just craziness
Hmm.
that went pretty well. And so maybe that one, because it was my last one. And then I remember walking out afterwards to kind of saying my goodbyes to everybody and kind of thinking like, man, if I could just give this a little more time, but I needed to come home.
Wow. And then TNA, how does this one come originally?
So I'd been on the indies now for 11 years, and I had started my company. So NRW, I'd been running for a year and a half, almost 2 years at that point when I
Hmm.
started looking into this. And I just decided I wanted to take this a little more serious. I wanted to get somewhere. I was getting into my late 20s, or, early 30s. And I decided that I needed to get creative with my opportunities, just get out there. I started getting out more on 09,
Okay.
2010. I was really trying to get myself out to be seen more. Well, an opportunity came up to do the gut checks that they were doing at the time. So I flew to Bakersfield, California to do a gut check in it would have been May of 2010, I believe. No, 2012,
Hmm.
May of 2012. And I did the gut check. D'Lo Brown ran that gut check, and it went pretty well. And At the same time, though, I had seen that I could apply for an internship at TNA. And I was finishing up college here at Metropolitan State University at Denver. I had changed from K through 12 physical education to sports industry operations. So I thought maybe my degree, I had to do an internship to finish it off for a semester. So I applied at TNA at the same time of doing the gut check. So basically, I think Al saw my name twice for two different things, and I was able to get the internship, which was a huge opportunity. So that internship was only supposed to last 3 months, but it turned into a job, and then I was there for a year. So I got an opportunity to work in the office there and get to know everybody. And that experience, that year, that 2012 to 2013, is the most responsible thing for me being able to do what I do now, because the amount of education and the amount of relationships I was able to build in that year, what Al Snow taught me during that year, and what D'Lo and all these guys did, they really went out of their way to try to help me, because they knew what I really wanted. I wasn't there to be an office worker for the next 20 years. They knew I wanted an opportunity, and it just never materialized like I'd hoped it would. But I got much more out of it than I could have ever expected. So that year is what really led to everything you see now.
Wow. When you talk about it, what was like a day in the life for TNA? Because even nowadays, I can't even remember the last time they posted for an internship. It's been years for TNA.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they do. I have some friends that work there. A good friend of mine, he's been a referee for us for years. Dewey Larson. He's there, and he's doing real well. He puts the place over all the time. Says it's great place to be. And when I was there, we had the office there near downtown Nashville and Cummins Station, and I'd go and work. It was an office job. I went into work every morning. I'd handle any issues that the talent might have, and kind of being the medium, the liaison between them and the office and people when it came to all sorts of different logistical things. I handled, the athletic commissions and making sure all that paperwork is up to par. And then at TV, when we'd have TV, and we were traveling at that time, just, being at TV, making sure all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted and everything was signed. And so that was my job. But the standard day was, drive in from the townhouse I lived in out there by the airport, drive into town and work in the office all day. But I learned a lot. Again, Al Snow was in the office, and I got to learn from him. And Bob Ryder, I'd have lunch with him just about every day, and I'd just get to talk to him about the wrestling business itself. And I picked up so much.
Wow.
So it was a normal office job with a heavy dose of pro wrestling education. So it was a great time. I'm very grateful for that time there.
Talking your career, you've wrestled so many people. I wanted to ask you about the first one. Anything stuck out wrestling Daniels and Kazarian?
Oh, it was just awesome.
Yeah.
It was just like, next level. It was great. It was a good experience for me, and it was a good test for me, and to see where I really was. Cause you always want to believe, like, no, I'm up there, I'm at par with these guys, and I can hang with these guys. And Hoodie and I think did a pretty good job doing that. So it was a great experience, especially at the time I did it, because I'd only been back here, I think, for less than a year. Like, I hadn't been, that was the summer of 2013. So it was probably 9-10 months after I had moved back. So getting to see those guys again, from now being in the ring with them and being talent versus, hey guys, can you sign this? Hey, did you make sure this is done? Can you be here at this time? And like, it was a different experience. It was a very good time. So yeah, great memories of that one.
Nice. When I talk about Mercury Yaden being creative, I'm curious. You did a best of 5 series. I believe it was against Severino Corrente. Was there anything that stood out? Because obviously, being a pro wrestler, you want to try to be creative. So match after match, was there anything that stood out about that one?
Oh, that was a lot of fun. The great thing about that was Severino Corrente was brand new to wrestling. Okay. I think I was only like the second feud he had ever been in. Like, wow. It was a lot for him to do. He's a natural at this. And I had a lot of fun with that one. That's one I talk about quite a bit. Nice. Was that best of 5. We fought in a river. Wow. We fought all over the arena. Like, I think there was there was a tables match that we did. I think Russo was producing at the time. So that was the brainchild of Vince Russo, and that was a ton of fun. Nice. So yeah, I have fond memories of that whole feud there. It was great.
One thing that when I look at your career stands out, how does the idea come to team with you and Curtis Cole?
We just became good friends.
Nice.
Like we just, and it's funny because when he first started training, he drove me insane. We laugh about it all the time. I'm like, oh, this guy is just driving me nuts because he's a quirky dude, but in the best way. And that's the thing. You just got
Yeah.
to get to know him. He's a sincere, genuine guy, and he's the type of friend that I'll have your back no matter what. So over the years, we just kind of started talking about the fact that we would like to work together, and we're both, old video game nerds, and we talk about our old Nintendo days and our old game collections and stuff. And it's like we should be a team. Like we're very, very online with each other. So that's how that came, just out of a real life, genuine friendship.
Wow. How does the name come about? The most funniest tag team.
We just threw it out. We were just talking one day, and I was like,
Yeah.
guys, it's got to be the most funnest, man. And then it was like the most funnest tag team on the planet, and yeah, so it was just us being goofy.
hmm Earlier we talked about OVW, but in 2021 you get to go back. Is there a difference in OVW from when you were there to when you came back?
Just continuing to grow. I mean,
Okay.
obviously it's not TNA's developmental anymore, but
Yeah.
they're now looking other directions and expanding. And Al Snow is in charge there, and that was a big difference. So he's had a huge hand in keeping that place rolling and keeping it organized and together. So a lot of things were the same, but as far as just to a different level, different degree, some remodeling, and the arena looks a little bit different as they've moved some stuff around. But yeah, it's still at heart, it's still what it's always been. It's a great place for independent wrestling. It's a great opportunity for anybody who can get over there.
Nice. Numerous times I see you all the time streaming with Martin Casaus. I'm curious, at the beginning, what's your first interaction with Martin Casaus?
Uh, why isn't this thing working?
What? Oh.
That's the
Oh.
the the our streams. That's our. Are you talking about our first interactions on the stream, or
I'm
just
just saying
what
in
was our first
general.
interaction in general, like
In
when we first
general.
met? Okay, I was say, well, just so people understand what I'm saying, Martin Casaus and I, every time we stream, can never start with the way we want to because our stuff's always broken or something's crashing or
Yeah.
his computer's shutting down on him. So that's what I meant by that. But no, I met Martin for the first time in 2007
Okay.
at Fusion Pro Wrestling, which was a group out here in Colorado. Him and I were cool right out of the gate.
hmm
We didn't really become friends until 2009. We both were in Los Angeles. We were both extras out there, and that's when we really got to know each other and become friends. And then we've just maintained that friendship ever since. There's been if you watch the show, there's been some issues throughout the years, but that happens, But we're back on each other's good graces, and we've been friends for a long time. But yeah, '07 was the first interaction, but we really connected and became friends 2009.
Is that just being the friendship that you wanted to start the tag team with him?
Yeah, we've talked about doing a tag team thing for years. We talked about it in
Really?
2009. We were like, oh, all these ideas, and we got this stuff we could do. It just never materialized, and then we were fighting with each other here for a little bit, like 2021, 22. And then just finally the stars aligned just right, and like, hey, we got a chance to do this. We're both getting a little long in the tooth. Like, let's protect each other. Let's help each other out. We enjoy doing the streams together.
Yeah.
Again, it's similar to Curtis Cole. Like, we're genuine friends.
hmm
It works well. We like being around each other. I did ask Curtis Cole. I was like, hey man, we're going to use the most funnest tag team on the planet moniker. Is that okay with you? And Curtis was like, absolutely,
Nice.
because Curtis isn't wrestling anymore.
Yeah.
And it was time. It's nice to be in a tag team. It's nice to have backup. And yeah, I'm having so much fun tagging with him.
Nice. When you look at your career, who brought the best out of you in the ring, you think?
Oh man, there's two guys that I could say.
Mhm.
For a long time earlier on, it was a guy named Jesse Williams.
Okay.
He's unfortunately no longer with us. Him and I did a lot here in Colorado. We wrestled each other all the time, and I always felt like I got the best. He got the best out of me, no matter where we were. If you watch early NRW stuff, you'll see a lot with me and Jesse.
hmm
But right there with him, and maybe even you might edge him out a little bit, would be Hoodlum. Like Hoodlum and I were at odds a lot. We wrestled a lot, but we also built this place together. And, for a lot of differences we may have had, the one thing we wanted was good quality professional wrestling in Colorado, and that came with starting NRW. He was a big part of the launch of that. And then when we started the school, he was a big part of coaching people and making sure that that the best was always put forward. And on screen, man, we were constantly at each other's throats, and I had some great memorable matches with him. And I do think if I had to go, all right, I'm going to do one last match with somebody, and I want it to be the best match I can, who's going to get the best out of me, it would absolutely be Hoodlum.
Nice. Is there a match that you would say defines your career, one that sticks off right off the rip?
Um, Probably the cage match I did with Hoodlum.
Nice.
I think was milestone. Was it 8?
Okay.
It was 8 or 9. It might have been 9. But yeah, that for control of the school and the company, and I was dealing with some neck and shoulder issues at the time, but I just kind of really got myself back into better shape to get through that. It was a big night for me.
Yeah.
Packed house, and again, Hoodlum got the most out of me, and I'd like to think he would say something very similar about me. I was able to get the most out of him, so I would say that one probably stands out the most.
Yeah. So when you look at your career and everything you did, when you first came to Colorado, when does RMP even like strike your eye or something that you interests you?
When I came back, you said?
When you come to Colorado.
Oh, okay. So I came to Colorado in 03.
Yep.
So I was messing around on the indies here for 7 years before that even became a thing. So Fusion, I mentioned meeting Martin Casaus at Fusion Pro Wrestling. So that was run by Jeff McAllis and Billy Roberts, Billy V and Jeff McAllister. And those guys really wanted to raise the bar. Very similar to what, we wanted to do with then NRW. They wanted it to be taken more serious. They demanded more of their wrestlers. They trained harder than anybody. So when that closed down in 2009, we were kind of left with a hole. Like that was a big hole to fill.
Yeah.
And that's when another gentleman and I had talked about starting something, even while they were still around. We had some ideas what we wanted to do. And then once they closed down, obviously that was okay. Well, I guess somebody needs to do this. So I started NRW in June of 2010. And NRW was the name of the backyard group that I was started with, which was No Rules Wrestling. I wanted to bring the initials back, but I didn't want it to be No Rules Wrestling because we'd have rules. So it was New Revolution Wrestling.
Yep.
And we brought that back June of 2010. And that ran until I moved to Tennessee. Sold the equipment to another gentleman who started something else. And then while still being out in Tennessee, I ended up buying the equipment back and restarting NRW from Tennessee. And that's, Hoodlum was here running it on the floor. Mm-hmm. Like he was the guy here in Colorado, kind of keep moving. And then I moved back. And that's when we looked at starting the school. Because now that I'd come back from Tennessee, I felt confident training people, at least within their first year or so of training. So we opened up the NRW. It was going to be the NRW Wrestling Academy. We ended up calling the Mercury Pro Wrestling Academy. And then NRW was the promotion. And then in the summer of 2014, I ended up with the show end of it back because I had somebody else was running that. I just wanted to run the school. But then I ended up back with NRW again. Yeah. And that ran until 2016 when Vince Russo started writing with us and working with us. He was coaching at the school. He was doing the character development stuff. And he had just asked me about, have I ever considered changing the name? And we went over it. I was like, the name means a lot to me, but I do understand it's just something W. Like it can get lost in the huge mix of other wrestling, initials that are something W something or something W. Like it's common. So we kicked around the idea, and Vince Russo, he called me one day. He goes, bro, the Rocky Mountains, every time I look at them, they're amazing. They're majestic. They're just like powerful. If you thought like Rocky Mountain Championship Wrestling. And I was like, that's already existed. There was one out here at one point. So we kicked it around more, and it was like, what about Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling? And I was like, only if we just do Rocky Mountain Pro. So the initials are RMP.
Yeah. And
that way we can put RMP Wrestling on something, and it's not, Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling. So that was, I just wanted the initials. I always liked the ROH initials. I liked Ring of Honor because it was Ring of Honor Wrestling. So I like ROH. So that was the idea to change it to RMP. And the NRW initials mean a lot to me, but I do believe that we made the right decision. Rocky Mountain Pro and RMP it's a better name for the company.
How does the idea even come originally to work with Vince Russo?
So he lived in Colorado. He lives in Colorado.
Yeah.
Um, Mickey James and Nick Aldis were out for a seminar when we were doing a show at Grudge, when we were at Grudge in Arvada. And they had just both asked me, and I'd worked with both of them at TNA. And they were just like, why don't you, Vince Russo lives like right up the road from here. Why don't you look? I was like, I don't know. I've met him once. I dropped off somebody at his house once and met him. Just, hi, how you doing? Me and Martin Casaus, actually, we were going up to do a show
Nice.
in Fort Collins, and we just, we dropped off. I think Eric Young was in town, so we swung by so you could see Vince and just met him. He goes, "Hey guys," and that was it. That was the only interaction
Yeah.
we had. And then several years go by, and then they're out for this seminar, Mickey and Nick, and they just said, you should at least talk together. He's right here. It would make no sense for you to not at least talk to him. So Vince called, and we had a good conversation. We met up, and him and I are, he hit it off real well. We've become pretty good friends over the years, and we just gave it a shot. And he was with us for 2 years at that point. Came back for a little bit in 2021, and then just finished another run last year with us. So yeah, that was all. Wow. I got to credit Mickey James and Nick Aldis for that one. They set that up for me, and I very much appreciate it.
Originally, when you took over, it was NRW, wherever. What was the vision with that? I know you talk about how much you love pro wrestling. You did a lot with TNA, OVW, but what was the vision originally? You wanted to run a wrestling company, the school, everything?
I did not want to run a wrestling company. No.
Okay, wow.
I had no interest in ever running anything. I started NRW because we had talked about having our own thing. Another friend of mine, Tom, and I had talked about what we would do if we ran a promotion. So we had even talked with Fusion a little bit about working together if we were to start something. And then when they closed, it was like, well, I guess I guess I'm doing it now. So us doing it together didn't quite work out, but I decided to move forward with it and start NRW because I just wanted good wrestling out here.
Nice.
And I didn't really have a clue on how to put all that together because I'd never booked. I'd never done any of that stuff. But I also was like, I think we need to take a little more care in who we book and be a little more focus on some of the small things that I don't think a lot of independent wrestling, at least out here, was focusing on. So that's really what it was. I didn't want to start a wrestling school at that point because I didn't feel like I had any business training people. I'd been on the indies at that point now for 9 years, but I didn't feel comfortable training people. So the school didn't come till I came back from Nashville.
Okay.
And but yeah, it was just a desire to have a better show and a different show where I didn't want to just see the same people on each and every independent show. It was like, can we have guys that are a little more, at least a look from the show side of things that you don't feel like you're at every other indie show. How do we be different than everybody else here? That's kind of what drove that. And then it just kind of kept going. And here I am still doing it. So
how long was Charged an idea for?
Charged actually came. So a friend of mine that did a graphics, Phil, he did all our graphics, and we did a show in 2014 at Chatfield High School. I was a wrestling coach at Chatfield High School at the time. I was an assistant coach, and I was able to set up a fundraiser for the wrestling team there in the Commons area. So Phil, when he made the poster, called the show Charged because they're the Chatfield Chargers.
Okay.
So Charged initially was a name for that show that we did. It was a charged fundraiser for Chatfield Chargers wrestling team. And we were talking about starting a show, getting an episodic television show going. And we just I don't remember who was like, I kind of liked it. It might be me or Hoodie or somebody. But it was just like, dude, Charged is actually a pretty good name for a wrestling show. So that's how it came. It was based on Chatfield High School's mascot, the Chargers, and then it turned into our show name. So it worked out pretty good.
When you talk independent wrestling, there aren't many that do the way that you guys do it. How was it like doing it one or numerous shows a week? How is that like? Because you talk about indies, especially, some companies run once a month, sometimes every few months, but every week. I know recently I was talking to Martin. You guys just wrapped it up doing a recording, but how is it like from your perspective?
It's really changed a lot over the years. I mean, at first, when we first started doing it in 2014, it was every other weekend we'd tape 2. Small shows every other weekend. Then we started trying to get out and travel a little bit more. So we'd go up to Longmont, Fort Collins. We'd find some venues up there that we were trying out. And actually, every Sunday on our Twitch channel, they watch those old episodes. I think they're in the 70s now.
Yeah.
But you can kind of see we're in that era when we started going up to Longmont, up to Fort Collins. And so every other weekend we were doing it. Then when we started traveling, we'd try to get a couple that week. So we'd get like Longmont on Friday, Fort Collins on Saturday,
Yeah.
and get, 2 to 3 per in the can that we could, and then release them weekly. We did that for a while. And then it became, I'm trying to think, when we were at Grudge, I believe it was still every other weekend. And then when Vince started writing, we had enough outside of our own building venues where we would get episodes where we could. So Alamo Draft House Cinema, we were in a movie theater shooting an episode or two, and then we'd be at Nighthawk Brewery, we'd shoot an episode or two, and then we would do, maybe one at Grudge, and then so it was really maybe 2 to 3 times a month we were getting some TV episodes taped.
Yep.
And then that turned into, we moved to where we are now. We've left and then come back. We had to leave during COVID in 2020, but at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds, the quarry, that we went there, painted that whole building, and then we would shoot. We were looking at shooting like once a month to get all of our episodes in. And we did that for a while. So that was the most common, was like to get, once a month, maybe over a couple day span if you can.
Yeah.
And then for a while we did weekly. We were shooting weekly there. 2018, when we partnered with Twitch, we were shooting live weekly, and it was going to Right Now TV live and to Twitch live. They were putting us on the front page. Like, it was pretty crazy. But then you had to do live weekly, and it's hard to draw an audience in there every single week.
Yeah.
So it's kind of shifted back and forth. Now we're at that, we're back to the, where you shoot 4 in a month, and it's usually over a couple days, 2 to 3 days if you can, depending on how many you've lined up. So as we move into next year, you're going to start seeing those, I think, like, 2 on Friday and then 2 on Saturday,
nice.
With pay-per-views being on Thursdays.
How was it originally handling RMP during the pandemic?
So it was obviously, like most people, we didn't really know what was coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
And, I'm trying to get in time frames, but around March is when things, early March.
Yeah.
I actually went ahead and closed down about 2 weeks before you had to close down. It was one of those, hey, everybody, we're not sure what is coming down the pipe. I actually had a hernia surgery in January.
Wow. Yeah.
And I had an infection that we thought, that they had basically 2 weeks after it, later January, they had to cut me back open and drain. So I was having to go in to wound care, because you can't just stitch that back up, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've got to like pack it, and it sucks. And I'm real squeamish for that stuff. But
yeah.
So I would go in about once a week. So I actually was talking to the nurses and my surgeon there, and as things were coming down, and they were trying to figure out what was going to happen. So I remember, based on some of that, like I think it was like early March. I can't remember exactly. I think it was later March when they did the 15 days.
Yeah.
We had to shut everything down.
Yeah.
But a couple weeks before that, I just, let the group know, like, hey, I'm not going to charge you guys for this time frame. We're just going to shut it down, kind of see what's going on. Let's just everybody chill out. We'll see where we are. I mean, obviously we had no idea what was coming, but that's how it all started. And then, of course, it took longer than we expected. And then it was I found we had left the fairground, so we were no longer at the quarry.
Yep.
So I didn't really have a home for training. So I was actively looking for a place to train at that point. But everybody was going through the shutdowns and how many people you could have in and all that stuff. So through our events with the Colorado Mammoth lacrosse team, I had connected with their strength and conditioning coach, who had wanted to work with our wrestlers. So we started talking, and they opened a new location called Fast Performance in Denver. And I went in to meet with them, and we were able to agree on a deal where we could actually put the ring in there on the turf and start training again. And then, of course, we were open for a little bit, and then it would shut down again, and then it would open, and then it would shut down. So that's how that all went until we eventually worked through it. But that's how the COVID era is a weird, foggy era. You're like, man, that's crazy. But through that, I developed a good relationship with Fast. I still do the strength and conditioning for our wrestlers at Fast Performance, because they moved locations closer to us. So you never know where you're going to end up, right?
For a guy that's done so much in wrestling, I'm curious whether it's personally or professionally a part of RMP. And going into 2026, is there anything you set out to do?
Continue to grow. We really want
Nice.
the online presence,
Nice.
the YouTube channel, the Rumble channel, to grow. I do believe more people should be seeing the show. I don't think enough people see it. We're doing everything we can. Well, let me correct myself. We're not doing everything we can. There's always more you can do and
Yeah.
to grow, but we're really putting a huge effort into growing the YouTube channel. We started a Rumble channel. I'm trying to get that to catch on. There's as many places we can put it. Twitch, we would like to get that back to where it used to be. We've got the Dudes and Belts wrestling podcast. They do a breakdown of the show.
Nice.
They do a breakdown of the pay-per-views. They watch old episodes. So, get that growing a little bit more. Continue to expand our live venues. So we've really, as we came out of COVID around 2023, 2024, I really started getting more connections with more venues. So we're at more venues now than we've ever been. So more
Nice.
opportunities to get the word out. But just an expansion of the company to where more people in Colorado know that we exist, so we can get more people at the shows, obviously. But getting those views up online, getting those numbers up to where, an episode's got 10, 20, 30,000
Yeah.
views on it. Because right now, we're still in that growth phase. We're creeping up on 10,000 subscribers. We'd like to get that to 50,000, by
Yeah.
the end of the year. Like we want to shoot high and then keep moving. So just an expansion, because it's not just live shows. Like our production team puts so much effort into what they do. And if you go watch the show, you'll see like they do everything they can to put the most clean, professional looking and creative product out there. And I just want more people to see it because I think they would really like it.
What about in your professional career? Is there anything you want to do when it comes to wrestling going to the new year, or just keep contributing to RMP?
I want to grow what Martin Casaus and I are doing. I want to get
Nice.
this most funnest tag team on the planet.
Yeah.
We're discussing gear ideas and just fun thing. We want to have a lot of fun with it, but we also, I'm going to take it serious. Like we're not, we're goofballs. We're not just goofing off though. Like we want to be good. We want to be a cohesive tag team unit. We got Trina with us out there, and she's a phenomenal piece of this. She's bubbly, entertaining, hence all the bubbles that you see everywhere all the time. She's a great person to have on our team, and she also makes gear. So like we're all collaborating together, and how can we make this such a very strong unit? And I think 2026 is going to be a really good year for Trina, Martin, and I when it comes to that. But that's as far as my in ring and my own wrestling.
Yeah.
That's my focus, is building Marty and I's
Nice.
team up.
You talk about Martin. I'm curious. You don't love pro wrestling. You love video games. When does the idea for streaming come in for you?
That was because of the Rocky Mountain Pro Twitch in
Wow.
2018. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know people did that. And I hadn't played video games in a long time. I had, like, not that I'd never picked one up, but I didn't sit consistently and play video games. I'd say it had been over a decade. Like I just kind of fell out of it, and then here and there, like my daughter, I remember she loved Little Big Planet, so you'd jump in and play Little Big Planet with her, and but so we always had a Wii and PlayStation and stuff like that. And every once in a while, you'd get an itch, and you played through the God of War series or something newer. But then that would kind of end, and then I would stop playing games for a while, and so it was very sporadic at best. But streaming games, I didn't even know that was a thing. And when we were approached, there was a third party that approached us. They were working with Russo about working with Twitch because they wanted to bring more content to the platform. And I was like, Twitch, what's that? Like, I didn't know what that was. And they explained it, and we were going to bring Rocky Mountain Pro to it. So when we did that, we brought Rocky Mountain Pro to it, and they were front paging it. They were asking us if we could stream more days. And it was like, I mean, I can't run more shows than we already run. So I was like, but I can get some of the wrestlers to maybe stream some stuff. So we had a guy doing a cooking show at one point, and like, I was like, I can play old video. I'll play old Nintendo, Super Nintendo. Like I can play old retro games or something. So then I learned how to set all that stuff up. And that's how that started. And then that shifted to me starting my own channel and shifting my gaming over to that. And so that really was something that I never planned on doing, but it just kind of, it came up through us working wrestling. Wrestling leads to most things in my life, I think.
Wow. Why talk about it, Mercury? Thank you so much for joining me. I remember originally asking you, not expecting it, and the fact that we made this happen. Thank you so much.
That means a lot, man. I appreciate you interviewing me and interviewing everybody, like trying to get people's names out there and letting us tell our stories. You do more help for us than you realize, and this is big. So it was a pleasure for me, and it was an honor that you would even ask. So I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, Mercury, I end every interview the same. The day you decide it's all done in wrestling, which isn't happening anytime soon, but the day you decide it's all done, what do you want your legacy in pro wrestling to be?
I would like to just, it's probably going to sound kind of cheesy or standard, but leave it better than I found it.
Nice.
Especially out here in Colorado. Like, I would like the legacy to be that we created something great, and we created something that gives opportunities to a multitude of people that want to share in this great world of pro wrestling. I want these people to have the same opportunities that I had, and more opportunities than I had. No. So I would just like to have left a place of value for those that want to pursue this.
Nice. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for doing this. I'll be tuning into you on Twitch for you and Marty.
All right, man. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you.
Thank you for doing this, and thank you, everybody, for watching this episode. This was Best for Business.
Thank you for watching this episode of Best for Business. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, because this is Best for Business.